Oh my goodness. Welcome back, everyone. This is another episode of Off the Post. I'm your host, Courtney Andros. I'm your host, Jen Carl. I'm your host, Dwayne Johnson. They used to call me DJ Redcap. I'm missing something, aren't I? I'm missing a red cap. Give me a second. We're gonna go a bit Canadian today, I think. We're gonna go with the Canadian red cap. How does that look? Yeah, I like it. Okay, well, there we go. No, all right, there. Is that it? That's it. Okay, we're gonna go like that today. So, welcome, guys. I'm glad to be back. We're gonna talk a little bit about the NWSL draft with my Mountie cap, and we're gonna see what everyone's been up to. So let's start with the girl that I said I was first, Courtney. What's been up, Courtney?
Hi, not much, just, here, just, we did the last show at the end of the year, and, just kind of been hanging around, watched the draft, went back to work, all that stuff, so, just ready to get back in it.
All right, sounds good. Now let's go over to Jackie and see what Jackie's been up to now that her Rams have left the city.
Oh, that hurt, DJ. Yeah, other than that, I've been doing pretty well at work, writing still, and yeah, my Rams, they left me, so I'm a little heartbroken, but I think I'll get over it.
All right, that's good to hear. Maybe you'll get a team next year. We can give you the Lions. All right, Jen Carl, what's been up? That Spirit fan, the most popular person on this show. I'm sorry. Jen Carl is suffering from technical difficulties, by the way, so don't mind her. She'll be a little delayed, as we'll say. So Jen said she's doing well, and she said we'll ask her a few questions, and we'll see how it goes. As you know, if you have anything to say, guys, you can always use Twitter, #WoSoTalk. And other than that, you can post it. Oh, yeah, we even have like an email now you can use, too, but we'll talk about that, I guess, later on. Let's just jump into the draft since it was so exciting. I was watching it at work, and all the kids were like, what are you watching? I said, the NWSL draft. And they said, what is NWSL? So I was like, all right, then we still got work to do. So that's what these kids have to do. They have to be watching right now so they can learn about this. So I guess we will go with the first-round picks. Who would like to start? Let's go with the hosts most of the time during the winter while I'm taking breaks and dealing with life. Courtney, what was your thoughts on the first round?
Just in general, or like, what do you have to be more specific, Mr.
Oh, really?
Redcap?
I'm sorry, man. It's been a while. Let's see. What was it? Review first round. Who went where? What did you like about certain picks? Good choices for certain teams?
Yeah, I think I'm sure we're gonna go through like each player pick at some point. I think overall, I don't think there were too many surprises. Well, there were some surprises, actually. I think the first two picks, I think people expected Emily Sonnet to be the first pick. I think people expected Raquel Rodriguez to go high in the draft also, so I don't think there's too many surprises there. So I think overall, the Breakers and the Dash, Breakers ended up getting, obviously we're going to talk about this whole new allocated process thing that was told 5 minutes before the draft was supposed to start. Obviously they traded up to get the third pick in the draft, and then their selection was really kind of awkward, considering at the third pick who was left there and what they need. Now I'm just really confused by their pick, but I think teams did fairly well, except for the Dash, which makes me sad because I actually love the Dash. But the Dash made some weird picks. Like they hardly have any defenders. The defenders they have are going to be out on international duty probably for the Olympics, and then they pick a defender who's going to be out 4 to 6 months, and Carrie Recaro because she had surgery. So overall, I mean, there were some pretty solid picks in the first round. The fact that Mackenzie Doniak was not one of them was very interesting, I think, for some people. But overall, like I said, except for the Breakers and the Dash really confused me a little bit, but overall people picked up some really good players, and so I don't necessarily think that anyone in the first round that was drafted maybe shouldn't have been, well, maybe I can think maybe 1 or 2 players that I was surprised went first round, but I think some of the locations were a bit interesting based on what the team actually needs.
Yep. Let's go over to Jackie. I guess I'll just ask you right away. Laura Harvey, everyone says she was the winner of the draft. What were your thoughts on Seattle a bit?
I was actually pretty pleased with what Harvey managed to get, which was Carson Pickett out of FSU. I think is a huge need for us. Back at left back, I think we filled that void perfectly, and she's a really great player. And then Harvey got UNC player as well. I don't know. I think Harvey did really well considering I don't think we had any, major needs, but the ones we got, I'm pretty pleased with how they'll fit into our system.
And I guess let's see if that Spirit fan if she's working. Can you hear us now, Jen? Can you hear us now, Jen? Okay, cool, Jen. I know you want to be quiet today, so what are your thoughts in the first round, Jen?
We're working on it.
We're still working on that. All right, then I guess we can start going over the picks while Jen. All right, yeah, Jen will be right back. She's going to work on that. We're going to start with you, Courtney. I guess we'll start with Emily Sonnet, correct?
Yeah.
Thoughts on her? Think the Thorns did a good job, or was there they said it was like an obvious selection, pretty much, right?
Yeah, I think everyone in the world knew that Emily Sonnet was going to get picked. She's been great for UVA. She was a Hermann Trophy finalist. UVA didn't do that great in the College Cup this year. They got out in the quarterfinals of the NCAA tournament, but she had Defensive Player of the Year honors. Last year she was named most outstanding defensive player in the College Cup. So she's been super solid. And obviously we've seen her involvement in the youth teams, but has been called up to the full national team recently and actually got her first cap and start versus Brazil, which says a lot with how much Jill Ellis believes in her to give her not only just a cap and some playing time, but started her against Brazil. It was kind of the first opponent the U.S. really played in the victory tour that was a challenge. And so to get a start back there on the defense was really great. And she has played really well. Some mistakes made, but I think it's the best way for her to learn is to be right in there. And overall, I think she's a very mature individual. I think the comments she made after the draft when she recorded a little video when she was drafted, I think shows she's a very mature individual. And the Thorns have a lot of defenders right now, but sometimes, as we've seen, their defense is slightly iffy. So I think she definitely could be someone who can start. I guess you're being a starter right away and can actually make a difference and kind of solidify the back line a bit.
All right. Now let's move on, I guess, with Sky Blue. Jen, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I'm good now.
Yeah!
Yeah! So now I'm going to throw the ball in your court. Let's talk about the second pick overall. The greatest team in the world, Sky Blue, even though they're picking second, picked Raquel Rodriguez. What have you heard about her? Thoughts on her? Good selection? Bad selection?
I like the pick. I think Raquel Rodriguez is a great player. She's coming out of Penn State and had a great year there. She's super talented. But I mean, she is an international. She's a rising star for Costa Rica. And when she's missing, I don't know that Sky Blue has the firepower to back her up. And that's going to be a big problem. She's going to get thrown into the mix right away because Sky Blue doesn't really have the firepower now. No offense. But, she's just going to kind of get thrown to the wolves. And then when she's missing, they're back to being SOL kind of. So I think it was a great selection for them, but they're going to be hurting with her missing for Costa Rica international team.
Right on. Yeah, for me, I was pretty happy to pick. I felt like they got the best possible player they could, and everyone keeps saying they want to see her and Katie Frills team up and see what happens. I mean, I just want some attacking players because sometimes it seemed like I remember earlier in the year when O'Hara and Kerr were gone, we just couldn't score. So let's see if we can get some players that can even feed them the ball when they do come back from the Olympics, even though that's looking too far ahead or something. Let's just get some players that can help them attack. All right, let's go with you, Jackie. And we are talking about the Boston Breakers pick Christian Westphal. Is that correct, from University of Florida? You know anything about her? What do you think of the pick?
I was a bit surprised that Boston went with this pick. I think a lot of people were. I know she's a defender. She's a decent pick, but I did not have her going this high in the draft, especially in the first round of Boston. I was pretty surprised they got her, but at this point, maybe Boston think that she could help them in the immediate future. Who knows? But yeah, I was very surprised she got picked.
Yep, and I guess we can stick with you again and go back to because Seattle picked fourth. Carson Pickett, you say you like that pick. Well, where do you see Laura Harvey using her, actually?
I do see her using her at left back with Cox and Brooks leaving. I think she really could step in and be a starter right away. Especially, especially in Harvey's system. I think she could really succeed early on and be a bright spot for us. So I'm excited for her.
All right, let's go back to you, Jen, and we're going to talk about when the picks got very interesting. Let's talk about Houston picking. I guess this player though was very highly touted for a while. Kari Recaro, if that's correct. Thoughts on that pick?
Yeah, I'm actually torn on this one. Like, I think Houston. I don't know what was said already, so bear with me if I'm repeating something that someone said already. But I think Houston made a lot of really bad moves.
Tell us how you really feel.
So, like, Recaro, I think may have been one of their better ones when she's healthy. And that's the thing. She's really injury prone. She's, I believe, out on injury right now, actually.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Houston's already got 4, maybe 5 defenders missing for international duty. Like, so you're going to pick up a defender who's reserved and put them in the back line, so you're still going to be missing a defender? Like, what are you doing, Houston? So, you know, I don't necessarily think that was a brilliant move on their part, but, I mean, if she can get healthy and if she can stay healthy, I think she'll be a good choice for them.
Yeah, that's what I was with Houston. It was weird because it's like they said, like they consider her a talent and they can help, but they say she can't help right now, even as highly regarded she is. They said she can play multiple positions, captain Notre Dame U20s, experienced, smart player, top talent and skills. They say they need a player right now actually to help that defense or whatever, and she's not going to help much right now because she's going to be sitting on the sideline, actually. All right, let's go back to you, Courtney, with the next big Houston pick, Rachel Daly.
Again, somewhat perplexed by the pick just because they clearly need defenders. There were good defenders left on the board at this point. Like Brianna Reed, for an example. I could think of a couple others, but that's the first one that comes to my mind. Yeah, I mean, she's a don't get me wrong, she's a solid player. You know, she didn't necessarily, you hear a lot of big names, people come from big name schools. She played at St. John's, not necessarily a huge name school, but was by far a standout for them. Set a lot of scoring records or point records for them. So that's always a good thing. And she's a really solid choice. And I think she's one of 2, I think, like, English-born players who are choosing to, stay and play in the U.S. as opposed to going back overseas and playing, which seems like a logical choice. We've seen other international players who come to play college ball here and then end up going back home or overseas elsewhere. So I think it's great that she wants to stay here in the league, wants to stay here in the U.S. and play in the league. Again, I guess I understand it because they did just trade away Jess McDonald and Tiffany McCarty. So I get that, but they still have Kim Ubagagu and Kealia Ohai left, so I'm not sure. And they only have 3 picks. So I guess they wanted to pick up a forward somewhere in there. However, they also picked up another forward later on, which we're going to get to. So, again, with the defense concern, I think that I'm really confused by it. But she's a great player. I think she'll do good things for the Dash. I just think personnel-wise, what they need is really kind of a questionable choice.
All right, Jen Curl, Spirit picked the number 7. A lot of people have actually rated this player very well since she was like a pacey player. Shayna Williams, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
Yep. She's actually one of the 2 signings. Well, one of the 2 draft picks that I really like for Washington. She does have a lot of speed. And we're going to need that in the absence of Crystal Dunn. I mean, we saw that last year that, when we were missing either Franny or Dunn or somebody up top, whoever was left just couldn't maintain the pace. So we suffered a lot because of that. So I think this year, having somebody like Shayna Williams, maybe for the first little bit, have her, work with a lot of the forwards we have now, get used to that pace a little bit, and then she'll be great paired with Franny Ordega when Dunn gets called to the Olympics. So, I think with her speed and her versatility up top, she'll be a really great asset to Washington.
And your next pick was Janine Becky from Texas Tech. What do you know about her?
Well, first of all, I did not agree with this pick for them. But I do know she's a really great player, and when she gets, that space, she can create chances like crazy. But as far as Houston picking her, I just don't understand why they picked her. Like I said, they have defensive issues they should have addressed. But Becky, she's a great player, but I just didn't think she would go to Houston that high in the draft.
Oh, Houston. And
can I just say something else about Janine Becky real quick?
Yeah.
I think Jen mentioned or something alluded to, like, also potentially not going to be here for. She's been called into, it's early now, but called in the qualifying camp. Obviously, the Olympic roster is smaller than our World Cup roster. She was an alternate for the World Cup, but still, if she's called as alternate or something, or like, I don't know the chances of her making the Olympic team, but still, someone else who could just not be here for part of the season. So, it's interesting.
Well, I'm going to stick with you right now, Courtney, because we're talking about the Flash, Michaela Hahn.
Yeah, I'm confused of why they picked her here. They picked Doniak early, and for their second pick, I don't know why they didn't pick her first if they're picking a midfielder. I don't really understand the thought there. Like, why when you have Doniak there, and I guess they just assumed that the Pride weren't gonna take Doniak because I'm just confused. But I don't really. She's not someone I've heard necessarily a whole lot about, but the Flash, I'm sure when we talk about overall teams, also need defenders, and their midfield's pretty cluttered at the moment, but I'm not mad about it because she, she's good, with assisting and with scoring, so anyone who can kind of be a provider and a scorer at the same time, I think is like a key moment. She's a pretty strong, reliable player overall, so I don't really have an issue with her as a player. I think she's a solid choice for them. However, again, their midfield is so full of people. Even with the losses they had, they still have quite a full midfield. So it's just going to be interesting to see, especially because they picked up Doniak also. It's going to be interesting to see what her role in the team is and where she fits in and kind of if she gets the minutes of development that she actually would need. It's going to be interesting to see that because I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure how it's going to work out at the moment because again they did end up picking up Doniak, so they got lots of midfielders and as we'll talk about, lots of forwards. So I'm not mad about it. I actually wasn't mad about any of their picks, but just someone who I didn't think would go in the first round. I think there were probably different people they could have picked, but not a bad choice overall.
And to wrap up the first round, Jackie, Tom Sermani, I guess, spent a lot of time in California because all of his picks were from California, if anyone noticed that. Mm-hmm. Sam Whitman. What do we know about her?
Yeah, I did notice that. I think he has a great idea of what he wants, and he wanted three midfielders from California, so I think it was a great pick. Sam Whitman from Berkeley, which is where Alex Morgan came from, so I think it's a really good pick for him. She's a strong player, so I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, I think Dom was just hanging around all the time, just catching some rays, probably surfing a bit. So, he just watched some of those teams out there and he decided to pick all Cali people, or he just asked Alex Morgan, one of the two. We don't know who's coaching yet. We'll see as the season goes on. But overall, that's the first round. I thought the same, really. I was looking at Sky Blue, really wanted to see what they did, so that was very interesting. A lot of other controversies came up. I guess we can talk about the whole 17-year-old, because that was big, right? You want to talk about that a little bit later? Yeah. Guess we have to, don't we? But let's actually go on to right now. We're going to just review the draft, like teams that we thought did well or teams that Houston that we thought did poor. Right now, as I'll say this, we don't know. Some of these picks end up being amazing, or some of them end up being very bad picks, but we won't know until they get onto the field. But we can still look at it now as they do with any sport and decide, that was pretty good picks. They kind of feel their needs, or they didn't feel the exact needs they get. So we'll start with you first, Jen. Which team did you thought did a pretty good job drafting, and which team did you didn't, or
Well, other than Houston. I don't. Houston. And they have a coach. How did a team that doesn't even have a coach do better than a team? Never. Actually, I'm gonna throw them in here. Western New York. I think they did pretty well in the draft. A lot of their picks were a little bit confusing. So they're flooding the midfield a little bit. But I think they made out pretty well. I really like Eckerstrom from Penn State, the goalkeeper. A lot of people have been hating on her quite a bit because she really didn't take form until maybe this past season. And maybe not more until the end of the season. But even in that time frame, we saw a lot of commanding leadership over the back line, and she really made her presence back in goal. And without knowing necessarily Western New York's situation, I think that was a great pick for them. So I think Western New York probably made out.
Oh.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jim. We appreciate all of your work and effort. Jackie, which teams you think did good and which teams you think did pretty poorly?
Well, just a hint on the Flash. Yeah, I think they made great picks in terms of talent, but I'm not sure it'll fit what they're trying to do. But you never know. So I think KC, Chicago, Orlando, and maybe Seattle. I think those 4 teams really had a strong draft, and they all pretty much assessed the needs they needed to. I know Chicago got a lot of defenders, which I think in their case is okay considering they have a knack for developing homegrown players. So I didn't have a problem with that. And then KC, they got some strong players as well, Bowen, Reed, so even Newfield is really good for them. So I'm excited to see what those 4 teams can do. And I think the teams who had maybe a questionable draft would be Houston. I just don't understand what they were doing. But I'm not a coach, so what do I know?
Right.
And then the Spirit, I thought they had an okay draft, but I wasn't. I guess I was surprised at a few of their picks. Going mostly offensive, kind of like the Flash. And I guess not too worried about defense, so we'll see.
Yeah, they're just going to try to outscore everybody. It's going to be 5-6 in most games, right?
Yeah.
And Courtney, your thoughts?
It's very rare that the Flash have actually been surprising me the last couple of days. I give them a lot of crap on here for an awful lot of things, and the last couple of days we've heard the trade to get Jess McDonald, which was great. And then their draft was actually pretty decent. They kept trading stuff for draft picks, and I was like, it's not that solid of a draft. Why are you trading for draft picks? I think they got third round. They got a good defender, Laura Lytle. I hope that's her name.
Yeah.
Yep. Who again? They must have. I think maybe could have gone a little earlier, but she's going to be a solid player for them, which is great. They picked a lot of forwards too, which is confusing to me. Not a lot, but actually they didn't pick forwards. But again, the midfield though, they have a lot of forwards with McDonald now. They are flooding the midfield, but again, you look at someone like Elizabeth Eddy can move back. She played on the back line last year. So if they need her to, she can fill in there, and that's fine. As far as goalkeeping, yeah, like Jen said, I can hear myself on someone's thing, and it's just distracting. Sorry.
Probably me. Anaheim hates us all.
What was I saying? Oh, go for goalkeeping. We have Sabrina D'Angelo, who's been called into Canada camp. Wow. So who knows if she could potentially be a goalkeeping alternate for the Olympics and therefore miss time, at which point people could be like, oh, Chantel Jones, though, but we don't really know what's going on with Chantel Jones. Nothing official has been said, but I've heard just from a couple of fans and people that are speak to players on the team that she may or may not come back. So again, we don't know anything official on that, so we'll have to see kind of what happens. But they definitely need to pick up a goalkeeper because If she does come back and Sabrina's gone, then we'll have an extra goalkeeper to utilize. I mean, if she could be a reserve person. Or if Chantel doesn't come back, we'll have a second goalkeeper. Great. The Flash ran into some goalkeeping issues last year a lot when Chantel was suspended, and she had that one game suspension for that game against Kansas City, and Sabrina was injured, and so they were like, oh crap, goalkeepers. So I think overall they had a really good draft. I think that Chicago also had a really good draft. They have a lot of like kind of local-ish or local players, and I think Rory Dames does really well with that kind of player and can really get them to work how he needs them to. So that's a plus. And then Kansas City too. We found out today that they actually traded with Chicago to get that international spot. They drafted Katie Bowen, and there was some question of whether she would come over, even stay and play. She's probably going to be gone for Olympic duty with New Zealand, but they didn't have an international spot. Now they do, so that's a smart move on their part. And as far as people who didn't draft well, Jen kind of froze, but had mentioned overall Washington didn't really draft that great, I guess. It's hard because they didn't really have that many holes to fill, I guess. And this is just my analysis of this. I don't really know what Jen's thoughts on it are, but she just mentioned, like, Washington bad. But I think they have a flooding forward concern, and obviously they're going to have to part ways with some of their forwards. So it's going to be interesting to see how that comes to fruition, I suppose. And then, like as everyone said, the dash. I really enjoy the dash and Randy Waldron, but I just don't really know what they were thinking because they made some pretty head-scratching and questionable decisions. So I'm just real confused with that. But we'll see what happens.
One thing about the Flash, which I've been reading up, is they should say that they got basically a steal at the top of the second round with the pick. What's her name? Mackenzie
Doniak. Yep.
Yeah, they said that was a steal because they said she was first round talent that slipped to them. So they said that was a great pick for the Flash. And then they said the next one was questionable, but.
Well, she's often been injury prone, and I think that may have been a concern for some people. But still, if she can stay healthy, will be an excellent. Like, she's definitely a steal for the Flash. Like, I wouldn't expect her to be available still at that point in the draft. So for her to be there and the Flash to grab her was like, how could you not? Like, yes, they have a flooded midfield, but you're in second round and Mackenzie Doniak is still there. Like, you kind of have to take her. So I can't really fault them for that. I think it's a great pickup.
Well, obviously, with this show, I'm having issues because no one mentioned Sky Blue on either bad or good, so I don't know what to think. So I guess I'll talk a little bit about Sky Blue. Why don't I? This is the Sky Blue moment of the show. Shout out to Cloud9, the people there. Well, I looked at their draft, and this is what I found. A lot of the picks that Sky Blue picked, everyone says they picked what they needed, but these players are players with a lot of questions. They don't know how good they'll actually be. Like they got the center forward they needed with Britt Galton. But she's from a small school, so they don't know if she'll be able to take the next level up. But they said they got a center forward, so they kind of needed that with the whole trade of Nadia Nadim and everything. Then the next pick they picked was, one of another picks they were talking highly of was the player from Rutgers, Skyrowski. They said she's brings defensive help. She was really good, actually. She improved at Rutgers. But, so we're hoping that she's really good. So I think she's going to probably be a pretty solid player for the most part. We'll see how that plays out, too, because these were all, I think she was another later round pick. And then they got a goalkeeper, the backup, Brittany Cameron, but they keep saying they need someone to replace Cameron. They said this goalkeeper, she's one that's not really highly rated, so we'll see how she does as well. But like I said, mainly the only team that I saw a lot of people just going in on was Houston with all their pictures saying, what were they doing? They didn't get the right players exactly. They had choices to get better players. And to have 3 picks in the first round, you can't make 3 mistakes. And it sounds like everyone's saying, hey, what's up, Jen? How you been doing lately? And they said they made 3 mistakes, people are saying. So that's not good. I mean, maybe it'll shake out one day for them. Maybe the coach will get fired. Who knows? We'll see how this plays out. And like I said, for the Spirit, the main thing I've been reading a lot of, too, is that people said they just don't understand the forward thing. But maybe they're just going to go all out attack. They're going to play 6 up front or something. Who knows? Maybe they're being creative this year, the Spirit.
Jen is shaking her head like, no, don't do that, please. Oh, boy.
All right, so I guess we got to get into the whole thing with the 17-year-old. I've been trying to read stories here and there about it, but I know a lot of people are pissed off about it, so I know that much. Let's go in with Jen. Can you hear me? All right, then let's see if I can
I
get
can
that.
hear you. You have to unmute her, though.
All right, I always have issues doing that or whatever. Speak, Jen. Maybe it'll unmute you. Nope. Okay,
Nope,
we'll come
you're-
back. We'll come back to you, Jen, while I figure out the unmute thing. Jackie, what are your thoughts on the whole 17? Hey, I know I'm screwing up big time. No, I'm figuring this out.
No, let's go to Jackie.
Jackie, talk about that. What were your thoughts on the whole thing with the 17-year-old kid?
Before we get on that, I had a quick comment about the Flash. I was hoping they'd pick either Sam Whitman from Berkeley or a keeper from Texas and Abby Smith, but they did neither. So, again, very surprised because Abby Smith is a phenomenal keeper, and I thought maybe they'd pick her with Jones not coming back. So, but they didn't. So, yeah. Anyway, moving on. So.
Well, Whitman was gone. Well, Whitman was picked by the time the Flash had a pick, so you can't really blame him for that.
That's true. But I was still hoping, secretly. But and our next topic is Pew going to Portland. Am I correct?
The whole kid thing that everyone was very angry about.
I don't know. I have mixed feelings about this. I know she's 17. And everyone's like comparing it to Horan, which I don't know if that's fair because Portland's not PSG and she's not Lindsey Horan yet. So I'm really not sure how I feel and where I fall on this. I guess I'm gonna wait and see if she even gets minutes, if she plays. I don't know. Maybe I'll assess her, in a few months or midway through the season. But very surprising. And I think I was saying this on the chat. One day we could be that kind of league where high school, college players come in at 17, 18, 19, 20, and then they maybe they don't go to college. We don't know. But I think one day our league might get that far, and that would be exciting. But I didn't know it'd be this soon. So I don't know. I'm kind of stunned about it. So we'll see.
Courtney, your thoughts on the 17-year-old kid?
We're moving over because you still can't figure out how to unmute.
Oh, I cannot figure this out. What the heck?
You just keep working on that. I'll just talk for a while.
All right, that's cool.
I just once again don't like how this all kind of happened. I think the fact that Portland benefits from it too is really getting under a lot of people's skin. I know I'm annoyed by that in particular. I just think it's very interesting that right before the draft, these new allocation rules were just magically decided. Were they decided before we knew that Pew wanted to play in Portland? Were they made up because Pew wanted to play in Portland? Transparency is a thing that should be more of a thing. I'm just confused that, I've read, obviously it's not been confirmed yet, but I've read some article somewhere that said that, ownership met and voted on it as of, Wednesday night or whatever. Then fine, why was it not, if that's the case, why was it not announced before 10 minutes before the draft? It just seems very sketchy that they were like, hey, everyone, here's this new fair process for handling unsigned, I don't even know what they're actually called now, not allocated players. They have another name for them, but it's like, hey, guys, we're going to wait and delay the start of the draft because we need to tell you about this process. It's supposed to be super fair. Oh, and by the way, Portland's trading their third-round draft pick for the top spot in this. Oh, and they're going to sign this wonderful person who we're going to allocate. She's 17 years. The fact that she's 17, I mean, obviously her parents were probably involved in this decision. I think, I don't want to sit here and judge a 17-year-old on, not going to college because I know that's not always super important. I think the process is what is frustrating to me and how this just magically just appeared as, oh, hey, by the way, this happened. I just would like to know more. It just seems very very suspect that we just find out about this and immediately find out that Portland's going to benefit from this, and it's kind of like, well, bad timing in announcing it, I guess. It just seems very weird, and I just want to know, how this all came to, which we probably will not know how it all came to be, but I just really want to know, was this created because Pew wanted to play in Portland and Portland wanted to sign her? It's very weird for me. The fact of being 17, I think it's really unfair to compare her to Horan. Yeah. Just because they're different people anyways, but like Haran also went overseas, where like yes, she's gonna be allocated. U.S. Soccer's gonna pay her salary, but it's different than, from what I understand, Haran had a pretty solid contract over at PSG that she made a lot of money with, and if she wanted to go back to college or wanted to go to college at some point, would have the means to do so, without professionally playing sports. Playing the NWSL, even subsidized by U.S. Soccer, might be challenging if he wants to go to college after. She's essentially passing up a full ride, to go to UCLA to play, on a soccer scholarship to play in a league that, yes, we want the NWSL to be treated as a growing professional league, which it is, but it's still a growing professional league. So, and it's uncertain. Like we're glad we're in. We're in. However many years the league is now. Was this year 4? I'm like, counting is hard. We're in year 4, which is greater than the other leagues have made it past. So that's great. So it's a good sign. It's definitely a good sign, but still uncertain. And I just think it's an interesting decision to kind of take that risk, but it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. So we'll see what happens.
All right, and let me try this. I'm about to click on Jen, and I think we can unmute her. All right. I'm sorry, this has never happened. Usually the thing unmutes itself. We're gonna try this.
You muted yourself.
I muted myself. Okay. All right. All right, Jen, do you have anything else to say?
She's still muted.
Thanks, Jen. We appreciate everything. All right, then. DJ's a little bit rusty, definitely, but nonetheless, I think that's all. That's everything about the draft. Figure out the muting situation later on this year. So, you guys have anything else you want to add? I can't figure it out. I cannot figure it out.
Did you? We're gonna have some on-air troubleshooting, folks. Sorry for this.
Okay.
On the picture, there should be a triangle drop down. Yep. It should bring up options: profile, ignore, mute.
Yep, and then it shows the mute, and it's blanked out for some reason.
Okay.
It won't even let me click it.
Go over to control room, the icon on the side.
This is good because some new people are watching, and we can mess up right now. Mistakes can happen. All right, I see that, and it shows her little name right there. Yeah.
You should be able to unmute her.
Nope. Nothing.
Go Rams.
Nothing.
Well, that's super awkward.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not even letting me do it.
That's so unfortunate.
I know she had so much to say. Well, I think we can wrap up the show.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, guys. Do you have anything else to say? Rants, complaints, concerns, comments? Me not being able to unmute Jen. All right. Jen has nothing to say, so I guess we'll move on. Once again, guys.
This is my rant. My rant is that you don't know how to unmute people on the show.
So no one will get muted again. Usually it unmutes itself, which is the weird thing about it, though. That's the funny part. So this time it didn't unmute it. I guess, well, things happen, people in life. So.
Did I fix it? Hang on, I think I fixed it.
What?
Did you mute yourself?
No, I didn't.
Jen, please talk. She's back.
It usually fixes itself. All right, Jen, say what you had to say about 17-year-old. I know you have a lot to say.
Jeez.
I have no idea what I just did, but I just played with the control panel on my phone, and it was like, hey, you can unmute other people. And I'm like, oh, can I unmute myself?
Go, Jen, go.
There we go. Told you. I told you. I feel good. It wasn't my fault.
See, this is fantastic. I don't have to mime anymore. Okay, I don't know where to backtrack to. When did I stop talking?
You stopped talking at Western New York Flash good. You got cut off before you said Washington Spirit bad. Okay, way back there.
I'm just going to recap really, really quickly. This is going to be the fastest little mini thing ever from me. Washington Spirit had a really crappy draft. Jim Gabarra, figure your life out. Your forwards did not work in Sky Blue. What makes you think they're going to work in Washington?
They won't. They won't.
Orlando Pride, you guys suck with the depth in the midfield, so you filled a little bit of that with your draft, but figured your lives out too. Stay out of California. Gig situation, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit because I'm German, and I remember that Mark Parsons is also European. That's kind of how things go in Europe, where they don't go to college and get drafted. They're they start playing at a young age for the professional sport and then move forward and they get signed. Some of them don't even finish high school before they get signed. Bayern Munich right now, granted it's on the men's side, but they're looking at signing a 15-year-old goalkeeper.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of how it works in Europe, and I think the fact that we're kind of starting to mirror that a little bit is nice, because it does show growth in the league, and I think she'll have the opportunity later on to go back to college. She won't be able to play soccer in college, but if something falls through, she'll have the opportunity to go back and get an education. She's 17, she's young, she still has time to make those decisions. And if she wanted to be a soccer player her entire life, good for her. She doesn't need a business degree to do it, though most of them get them anyway, just so they can get drafted. So good on her for making this move. And I'm going to say good on Mark Parsons for mimicking the European leagues a little bit and trying to style to the NWSL. Other than that, I think I'm good. That was as brief as I could keep it, so I'm good.
Good job.
All right, well, thanks to Jen for figuring that out, because there was nothing I could do on my end, as we know now. All right, let me, I guess, just tell you guys a few things, and then we'll move on. So, yes, subscribe to the new channel. This is our new network, so to speak, our new YouTube network channel, whatever you want to call it. This is where we're going to be broadcasting everything, so make sure you sub. It's real easy. If you look to the right, there's something up there, I think, to sub, or if you look down low, there's probably something to sub, or I'll just put a big thing over my face and you can press that to sub, whichever works for you. I will not wear this Canadian hat all the time. I bet you a lot of these panelists are going to be pissed off if I wear that, but I love me some Canada, if you know what I'm saying. And
I don't have an issue with Canada, so you're fine.
So anyways, that was the end of our NWSL draft. Next week, I think we're going to talk about it's going to be some U.S. Women's National Team games, stuff like that. A little bit of Ireland. You might see Rachel Stack with the most arrogantly named blog in the world come back on. I'll try to get her on if I can pull Rachel Stack back on. She hates me right now. Other than that, this was the first, I guess, big NWSL thing we talked about, and we hope you guys enjoyed. Can't wait to see some of the new faces this year. We'll do our spotlights in, it's going to be like March time. We might have some special guests. We might just have Courtney and Jen talking again in the same room. Who knows? Just tune in.
That might actually be a thing.
Right? That might actually be a thing, a common segment. The Jen, oh yeah, and you're going to see that Spirit fan. You might even see that Seattle fan or that St. Louis Rams fan and Jack. Who knows? You'll see it all this year on Off the Post. You guys take care. Let's do a little bit of a wave real quick because everyone's pissed at me right now. Take care.